Now we're going to move into talking about the logo design process for web design. For my online class, you should have already listened to the Why Study logo design for a website class, and so you should already know the information that's in there. I'm going to do just a brief overview of that though, or brief reminder, because I'm not sure how long ago you've all watched it, so I just want to make sure we're on the same page with this. So why were we discussing logo design? Because this process is useful for web design as well. It's a quicker process because a logo is so much smaller and we can apply it faster, but it gets us a much better understanding of our users. So you will be now more aware when you're designing your actual website pages. And sometimes web designers are called upon to provide support in things such as logo design and layout. And last, it allows us to learn a graphic design program such as Figma on a small project before we try to design an entire website. And just a reminder that this is a class in web design, and we're doing this kind of front-end web design, so we're looking at the designing and the messages that we're sending in web design. And we want to reach your target audience. Understanding logo design provides insight to help your web design choices. And what it's not, this is not a class in web development, and it's not a class in logo design, graphic design. So although we're learning some of these things throughout the class, it's not the major portion. Really, what we're doing in this video is we're going to learn a design process, we're going to play with this process, and then you will begin concepting your own logo design. All right, I hope I got through that pretty quickly so that you have the right framework for starting this process. All right, the first thing that we are going to do when we're working through the logo design process is we're going to start with the purpose of the organization. Who is your client? What's that brand personality, brand tone? Who are your ideal customers, consumer users? And who are the competitors? In the last video, I showed you church logos and we kind of talked through those. So I'm going to move on from that. And as we look at this design process, we are going to use the example of creating a logo for a client that was inspired by a friend of mine whose last name is Sheeter. And so we are going to be going through this process, the logo design process, for Sheeter's Sheets, which is a bedding company. So they sell sheets and blankets, duvets, comforters, things like that. And so as I'm going through this process, so let's pretend that we're hired to work on their website, and our client brings up the fact that their logo was created in 2003 using word art and PowerPoint. And so this is what their logo is, and they want to know, since we're helping set up their website, could we also please make a better logo for them as well? And yeah, we can do better than that. Any of us could do better than this. So as I mentioned, we want to look at the brand personality before we even begin with talking about a logo design. So what is a brand personality? Basically, it's if we think about the brand, if it is a person. So the personification, making the brand a person and giving it different traits, just like we would describe someone we know. So if somebody would say, tell me about your mother, and I would say, oh, my mother, she's bubbly, she's extroverted, she is sweet and kind, giving, and so I'd be using those types of words for her. Same like that, we want to say, well, tell me about your business, your bedding business. How would you describe Sheeter's Sheets? Well, they are blah, 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 blah. And we'll give an example for Sheeter Sheets in a moment. But just so you understand brand personality, there's this idea that every brand tells a story. So if you think of Nike, if we're going to describe it as a person, maybe we'd describe Nike as determined and excited. And Apple, we think of maybe being progressive and innovative. And so this is just their personality. So then we express through a brand voice and brand tone this characteristics. So brand personality isn't just seen, it's heard. The way a brand talks, the emotional nuances it conveys, its tone are crucial to letting the personality shine through. So you'll have to figure out what your client's brand personality is. So I'm speaking with my online web design students. You'll have to figure out for your client, whatever you're building the website for, what is that brand personality? If you have a client, you can just ask them, say, if you were going to describe this company as if it were a person, how would you describe it? And if you can't speak with the client, if maybe you're doing a site where for whatever reason the client just isn't available, you can check out whatever materials they have. So if you take a look at a video that they've done before, what is their vision statement? Have they done any ads in the past? Do they have some existing web copy that's already up, but it really just needs to be completely overhauled and a new site made? Or if you're doing a church, as I think it's possible some people might work on a church or a nonprofit website, you could look at things, church bulletins. Anyways, you could talk to users, actually, people who are a part of a church or a nonprofit, and find out some of these things. And if you're creating a website for your own portfolio, this is where you have to really think, if I give this website link to my portfolio to someone that I'm going to be interviewing with, what do I want them to know about me? I want them to be prepared for the type of worker that I am, the type of professional I want to be. And for some, you are wanting to be just solid, reliable, that you are somebody who can be counted on. Others want to be unique and quirky and have a voice that no one else has. Others want to be traditional, non-confrontational. So you have to think about what is your personal brand, personality, and make that and we're going to work that into your website, your logo and your website. Once you know the brand personality, want to think about brand tone. How will this brand interact with the customers, consumers, users? So if your customer starts a relationship with the brand, what sort of person would the brand be? Would the brand come across as a friend, a role model, a teacher, a family member? And based on how that would be, that's how you're going to want to write your copy and design any images to make sure that the brand would talk and relate to the customers in that kind of a role. And you can examine existing copy and images from your client to reveal brand tone, or you can talk with them again, or if you're your own client, you'll figure this out for yourself. What should your tone be? All right, so let's go back to my example of Sheeter Sheets. What is Sheeter Sheets' brand personality and the brand tone? So first of all, personality, it's nostalgic, elegant, vintage, and Sheeter Sheets is cat crazy, in which they love cats, but just not in the crazy cat lady sort of way. Comfort seeking, and the personality of Sheeter Sheets is someone who adores sleeping, resting. The tone is confident, hopeful, peaceful, and it's going to vary between romantic. So when we looked at the catalog, there were some copy or words that say things like, imagine satin sheets and Victorian lace caressing your shoulder as you sleep. So that's kind of the romantic. And other copy is more pet relationship based. Smittens loves camp napping on Egyptian cotton sheets with her best friend. When we look at some of the pictures in the catalog, we see this as well. We see both that cat loving side, and we also see this romantic vintage nostalgia side. Next thing I'm going to want to do is take a look at the ideal consumer. And in this case, for this particular client, my ideal a consumer, and here I have a consumer profile, is 32-year-old Victoria Ashley, who yearns for the panache of years past, but also has a modern outlook. While she has to appear professional in her job, as the CEO of a local finance agency, she loves to indulge her softer side at home. A perfect day includes snuggling in bed with her twin boys, Ashton and Archibald, and her tuxedo cat, Smittens. Now, for students in my online class, you should have already done consumer profiles, so you know who your consumers are. And in this case, the other thing that I would do is to try to get some inspiration from my client about what they might want their logo to look like, feel like, as I'm considering the logo design. So in this case, for Sheets, these were the logos that I was given. So we have two Laura Ashley logos. One is an older one that had flowers in it. One is just a word mark, so just has the words in there. And then Gunny Sacks was another logo inspiration, and we have two versions. One was more elaborate, one less so, and Sleepy Cat Inn and the One Cat Bed and Breakfast. So with the client not quite sure if they want to go the romantic route for the logo or if they want to go the cat route, these give us some inspirations. And for this particular one, you'll notice these aren't competitors. Laura Ashley and Gunny Sacks are clothing companies. And for the cats, we have a Cat Inn, and actually that's for like boarding cats. But the One Cat Bed and Breakfast is for humans to board. So for inspirations, I don't necessarily have to get competitors for my client. Once we've finished learning all about our client, then we go to step 2, which is to consider the competitors for our client. As we're trying to learn user-centered design, it's really important that we understand who the competitors are and get a visual idea of what their logos look like. And then we're going to be organizing these logos, see where they fall on a spectrum. What we want to keep in mind is if a potential user of our website does a Google search, let's say they're looking for churches to visit this Sunday, and Google's going to give them a set of results, and they'll see the logo in many cases in that result, and we want to make sure that the logo we designed for the church is one that is going to appeal to our particular type of user. So we want to see what's out there. If we're designing really outside of what's expected, it's very possible that the user will just not click on our particular link. They'll think, oh, that's awful. I'm not even going to see what times their services are this Sunday. Obviously, that's not what I want. So we really need to think about this and look at it. Now, you all in the online class will have an assignment in which you do this, and so that's a different video that explains it. So you can take a look at the competitor logos assignment. But let's just keep going as I'm going to give the example for Sheets, which is what we're working on now. So competitors. So when I look at the logos of actual competitors, this is a variety of other companies that provide bedding. I see a large variety here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a continuum, a line, because I want to see what the extremes are. And I want to try to keep my design more kind of in the middle of this. So I have very plain ones. So like we get to Brooklinen, Bowl and Brunch, and these are very plain. And then there are very fancy ones over here with the Milady. And what this process is teaching us is we want to avoid being outside of this spectrum, and I probably even want to avoid the most extreme end of the spectrum. I'd be better off with one of these being more of kind of a model for me to aim for in terms on this spectrum for being plain to fancy. Now, plain to fancy is not the only spectrum somebody's going to use if they are arranging logos. In fact, you would gather a bunch of logos and take a look at them, and you would make your own spectrum. So sometimes it's going to be plain to fancy. Other times it might be monochromatic to colorful. Other times they might be busy to uncluttered. So the spectrum's always different. It's just based on the set of logos you have. So you are going to be working to collect a set of competitors' logos in two ways. One, we're going to have a flip discussion about this, and a competitor website logo assignment that I just mentioned. So the flip discussion, you can do this later. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that you'll be doing this, in which you'll gather, I think, 5 logos and create a discussion about it. And then next, you're going to be doing a full assignment with competitor website logos, in which you'll collect 10 logos, put them in a spectrum, and you're going to actually be learning the Figma design software as you're doing this assignment, which I'm really excited about because Figma is a great program and it's going to be really helpful for us, not only for doing this assignment, but it's what you're going to create your logo in. And when we create kind of a blueprint or a wireframe of your particular website, we're going to do that in Figma as well. All right, so you look at competitors. Now, I already gave the example of looking at the logos for Sheeter Sheets, so we can move on to step 3, which is brainstorming and feedback. Now, this is a very specific process that I'm going to be giving you to do, and I know it might take some of you outside of your comfort zone, because I'm actually going to ask you to print out a set of worksheets that I provided for you, in which one is 9 thumbnail sketches and one is 3 rough drafts. And I'm going to actually have you print them out, and you are going to just be sketching with a pen and paper, pencil and paper, very quick sketches. Now, before I describe it a little bit more, I just want you to know that you do not have to be artistic at all. In fact, I am not artistic. This was one of the gifts the good Lord saw to leave out of my repertoire. Is I'm horrible when it comes to sketching and drawing. So you'll see an example for me that's not good. In this type of process, stick figures are amazing. That's good. That's all you have to do. Nothing more than that. So your sketches, don't worry if you're not artistic, just get something down, we'll be okay. Now, it's a different challenge for those of you who were blessed with an artistic skill, because I'm going to be giving you a time limit on your sketches. Because this is brainstorming, I don't want you to start working on one sketch and spend hours on it. Not yet. I want you to get a bunch of different ideas together. And so I'm going to have you do a bunch of brainstorming, and I'm not going to give you much time at all. In fact, with the brainstorming session, I'm going to have you do 9 drawings in 9 minutes. That means you just have 1 minute per sketch for creating a sketch of a potential logo for your website client. And again, it's okay to have awful ones. Don't think just sketch. Now I'm going to show you my example from Sheeter Sheets. So using what I knew about the client and the competitors, this is the first brainstorming in which was kind of looking a couple options to have a cat, some that were simply word marks and wasn't sure if they should be if it should be maybe italics, or maybe it should be more calligraphy, or should it be kind of more of a printed type of font? Should it use flowers or not? Should it just be initials? So again, this was just very quickly done. So what you do with this particular assignment is you start out with a clock. You actually get, or a clock, stopwatch. Most cell phones have a timer capability. So you print this out and you go to that first square in the top left and you give yourself 60 seconds and you do a quick sketch. And when that buzzer goes off, you stop and you go to the next one. And it does not matter if you're not done. You still go on to the square number 2 and you begin sketching out your second potential logo. And you only give yourself 60 seconds. And when the timer goes off, again, you go to the next one. Now, when I teach this class on campus, we actually do this in class, and it's a fairly quick process because I actually have the timer there, and I make everyone stop and I walk around and make sure they're not kind of worrying about what they're doing. They're just going to keep on going. And so we do this actually in class. Now you're going to have to do this at home, so you're going to have to be your own timekeeper. But I promise you, if you just stick to the 60 seconds per drawing, that's perfect. That's all you need to do. And then you will be creating a flip discussion, and you are going to get a feedback phase through this. So our feedback will be through the flip discussions. So essentially, you're going to create a video and you're going to show your 9 thumbnail logo sketches. But before you show them, tell us what type of website you're going to build. So basically, who's your client? What's that brand personality, tone? Who's your target audience? Just make sure that your fellow classmates understand what your website is aimed for. Then show us the sketches. You don't need to talk about them in detail, but if you think it's helpful, you can. And don't apologize about your skill or your lack of skill. These aren't intended to be artistically good again. Just show us. Your video for showing your thumbnail sketches should be about 1 to 2 minutes in length. This doesn't need to be long because it's really the visuals that we're looking at. Then I want classmates to give a thoughtful response in which you give your feedback to your classmates' thumbnails. So of the 9 that they sketched, which seemed to you that they are doing the best job of reaching the potential users, which do the best job of kind of giving an idea of the brand personality. So be candid, but also, let's be nice with this. Let's be very nice and try to explain what you're thinking. And this is helpful. The feedback, I think, is always important. And if I didn't have classmates to do this with, this is what you would show it to. Potentially, you could show it to colleagues. You could show it to people who are in that target demographic and just get some feedback such as that. Now, again, when I teach this class on campus, this is done directly in class. I get students in a small group and they do this directly and get that feedback immediately. Once we're done with the feedback, we're going to choose 3 of those 9 to further develop. We're going to give them a little bit more time for this section, but not a whole lot more time. So whereas in the first one you only had 60 seconds to draw each one, now we're going to give 3 minutes to develop 3 sketches. And so you'll do this on your own. Again, so you just print, this is part of the worksheets that you will get. And so in this case, you'll see based on the feedback, these were the 3 little bit further sketches that gave a bit more idea of where we might go with this. But we still need to get feedback after this. So we do another flip discussion for the online class. And again, in my class on campus, we would do this in person. But you're going to be doing another flip discussion. Now, because of the way the timing works with Lee Online, we're going to have to break this up a little bit. So in Unit 2, you're going to create your initial video in which, again, briefly remind your classmates about your website and who the target audience is, then show the 3 rough drafts, and then again, it could be short, 1-2 minutes, and again, it's about the visuals here. But there's not time during Unit 2 to get a second feedback here. So in Unit 3, I'm going to have you actually do your responses to the 3 rough drafts. So in Unit 2, you are going to post your initial your initial discussion that you show your stuff, but in Unit 3 is when you are going to actually respond to each other's. And again, be kind but be candid and give them some information. Now, I'm going to go into step 4, and let me tell you that step 4 is one that you are not actually going to be doing. And so I'm going to talk about step 4, but it's one that we're not going to worry about. So step 4 would normally be designing drafts in the design software. And now, eventually, you are going to be creating your own logo in Figma, and that will be, I think it's step 5 that you'll do that. But step 4 is this kind of an extra step, and I don't think we need to do that since we'll have gone through enough of the process, I think, for it to be fine. So again, online class, you don't need to do step 4, but I want you to know what I would do with a real client. So what I would do with a real client, I would create a couple digital designs that are just in the draft phase. They are not going to be fully executed, but it's just going to be more of an idea of what I might develop digitally. And I'll show them to the client and say, you know, which one speaks to you essentially? Which one do you think we should work on and actually develop into the final logo? I might also show it to a target audience to make sure that it's appealing to the right group of people. And my one warning here is if I have a few digital rough drafts and there's one that I don't, if there's like, say there's 2 I like and there's one that I don't like, I'm not going to show the one I don't like to the client. Because I tell you, designers will do this a lot, that will design something and will say, oh, I want you to see all the work I've done, so let me show you everything. But then you're assuming that the client's going to respond to it similarly to you, and they're going to say, oh, interesting, that's an awful one. See, you did work with this bad one, but, you know, I'm not interested in it. And of course, what often happens is a client says, I love it. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is the worst thing ever. And then you're kind of stuck with it. So don't show something you don't like. Okay, so again, I'm doing the design program, developing a couple rough digital designs. And so this was example with the sheeter sheets, have couple different things. We have one with some flowers. We have 2 that are in a circle, and one's with more of a not cursive really, but a script, and one's with just regular block letters. And then I have one with a cat. So these would be kind of those initial things. And if I don't like them, if my client doesn't like any of them, I can always return to brainstorming and keep and try some other ones. So in the real world, these concepts, I test them with the client and I test them with the target audience. All right, so you're not doing that, but that's what I would do in the real world. Okay, let's go to step 5. And here's where we're going to design and finalize the logo using design software. So the online class is going to be doing this step, but just not quite yet. We're still learning the Figma design software, and so we're going to take a little bit longer to learn it, doing a few different things, such as you're going to be following some tutorials in order to design logos that already exist, and you're going to kind of recreate them. And then as you're more comfortable with Figma, then you will create your design. And so to finish this out with my Sheeters Sheets, here is Sheeters Sheets final logo design. All right, I hope this is helpful to learn the process. I look forward to keeping on working with you through this whole process until you are able to come up with your own logo.